Hello and welcome back to Person Tries Shit Out for Bleed Crossbow, take 17. I've been trying a bunch of different stuff while getting some levels. I'm currently level 88. Most of the changes have been in skill tree and my gems. There have been some changes to gear. Most notably, just a chest piece that has more armor, a ring that has a little bit more flat damage, but also has life leech. I can't remember if I had this in the last video. Pair of gloves that have armor, damage, mana leech, which this lightning damage here, this does work in tandem with the gain damage as extra fizz. It's not a lot, but you know, it helps. Same with this ring. I did take off Rislotha's coil though. I feel like I was running into problems and just kind of show this. How to properly get resistances on this character. Because eventually I'm going to be swapping a lot of gear around. And if I just take this, so I bought this thing for 1 div. I slammed the accuracy on here, and then I also did a Omen of Echoes Abyss craft, and I got this Fire and Chaos res because I feel like I need both. But, you know, if I put on both of these, I'm now in the turbo negative for fire. I include the cap on cold. I have a decent amount of chaos, and you get the gist. And this belt, Rislotha's coil, it does help with trying to get a higher top end bleed, but it also has this lower end of the fizz roll go down more. So it's more of like lightning damage, but it's physical. So if you can see, the bottom end goes from like 1500 to 2200. The top end goes from 8600 to 6100. So I mean, it's a belt. It allows you to get potentially higher rolls of your bleed, but it also has the chance to give you a lower end roll of the bleed. So eventually, once I get my res figured out, I'll probably put this back on. But until then, I'm back in small boy land of just trying to get enough res to actually play the game. Besides that, gear hasn't really changed that much. Eventually, I want to craft a pair of gloves that it's just going to be just raw damage. So this is the meta setup where you have try added damage prefixes, and then for suffixes you have attack speed. Socketed runes have 100% increased effect, and then I don't know what I would do for the 6 suffix because I don't have crit on this build, so maybe I can find something that's worth it. I had this exceptional base that I bought for like 40 exalts, and I think now exceptional base is just baseline or a div, so kind of sick when I got these. I'm in the phase right now where I'm just going to be chaos spamming until I get high tier attack speed, and then going from there. As for gems, so I've been trying a lot of different things to figure out how to A, get decent clear, B, see what I can do with spirit reservation because I'm a tactician and want ascendancy node, which makes it so it's 50% less reservation. But if someone would have told me that I would be using fucking Plasma Blast as my single target bleed option, I would have just told you to fuck off. turns out when you have a skill that gives almost 5,000 extra, or just 5,000 attack damage, you can slap anything in here and it's going to do a fuckload of damage. So with Plasma Blast, the physical damage portion of this, right? So if you read here, so naturally it converts 80% of the Phys to lightning. So only 20% of my weapon would be physical damage. However, I believe because I have this modifier on here, so gain, percent of damage is extra physical damage, it's working in tandem with this shit. So I can like actually properly use this as like my single target damage option, which is insane to think about. And to kind of showcase what I'm currently rocking, this is just, so I'm standing still, right? The only thing that's affecting me is Deep Cuts 2 and Heft. I do have Momentum in here, so when I move around, I get 40% increased damage. I believe this works. It doesn't affect the tooltip, but at least in POB it says it does. So, I don't know. I have Exploit Weakness. I've tried a lot of different things to slot in this particular gem location. So increased shock chance, increased shock magnitude, just more damage. Specifically more damage though, because I don't want to scale Ellie at all. I want to scale the physical damage for the bleed. So it has to be something that is physical damage in nature. But I can't use brutality because I also want the lightning damage to apply the shock. So I settled with Momentum, Virgion, if that's how you pronounce this shit. You're always going to be channeling for 2 seconds because of Plasma Blast's innate 2 seconds to total attack time value. So you just straight up will always have 40% extra damage. And then I've been playing around with a lot of different ways to scale it even higher, and I've kind of landed on Exploit Weakness for now. I feel like I generate enough armor break where I don't have to worry about this. And this actually ties into something else here in a second. But in Siege Cascade, I have Magnified Area, Proj Acceleration, Brutality. I actually do have Light Leech here, 3. You can put damage in here if you really want. I personally don't feel like I need damage right now. Maybe in Zesht tier 3, so that's the highest difficulty. I need more damage. But this Life Leech actually feels really comfy. I don't have a lot of regen, so being able to actually have Leech, which with a ring, I have no idea why it's not showing it here. Maybe it moved it up to here. Oh, yeah, right here. So I have 22% physical leech, and the leech does not get removed once I'm full life. So it's like permanent life regen, which it's a lot because I'm doing a lot of physical damage. And then I have nimble reload. You can do increased attacks if you want. I just slotted in reload because I think it feels better. With artillery ballista, I'm doing Urgent Totems 3, Brutality 3, Proj Acceleration 3. I have Armor Break 3, and then Urok Smelting. So you break more armor. Once armor is broken, they get a 20% physical damage debuff. 2%, I can't remember what I just said. It's almost midnight. So it starts at 2, and then you work up to 20 as you break armor. So naturally with Plasma Blast, if I'm breaking the armor, I can get to that higher value a lot quicker if there's a boss that lasts that long, which I'm sure there is. And I think this actually leads me into Mirage Archer and what skill setup that I've been trying. Where are we at with the video? 10 minutes. Okay. So I'll start with arm piercing rounds. And I'll just skip ahead. I'll showcase clearing a map here in a second. So this is a boss. Mirage Archer is new in this new patch. So you dodge roll, it's going to create a little demon guy. This guy lasts for, I think for me, almost 6 seconds. Once it dissipates, it incurs this 6-second cooldown before you can use it again. However, once this goes away, if you constantly dodge roll, you're always keeping this permanently up. I feel like they need to change the duration on this so it doesn't always jump up to 6. It just like adds 1 additional second every time you dodge roll. Because it actually feels really weird holding your dodge as like a damage cooldown when you have, you know, boss slams that are about to one-shot you. So here's a boss. I'm going to set down my Balista. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dodge roll. I summon the Mirage Archer. This has armor piercing rounds. So I'm going to shoot my Siege Ballista. This guy is going to be shooting armor piercing rounds. It's going to stack up broken armor really quick. And at this point, it's just building up the pin. So that was about a second for a full pin. Now here is where I charge the Plasma Blast. So because of my support gems, I'm constantly thinking about moving for momentum. And then I'm about to let go. And just to showcase this, so this is this is starting at 6:30. So over the course of 4 seconds, I did about 2 point. Let's see. Be like here. Those about 300,000. The shot did about, what is that? 300,000. But the actual bleed itself did, you know, a respectable amount. This actually leads me really quick into a segue of what I'm thinking about how this is actually going to scale on a boss. So I shot Plasma Blast once, right? I don't think the shock is taken into account when the bleed is applied. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. Just in case if it's not, this is kind of my current character. So my bleed DPS right here is fairly high. I don't think I have the POB from earlier. Oh, I do actually. So actually just to showcase this. So this is the Titan that I was working on. Kind of the same calcs that I was using. I don't know what the fuck I did. Maybe it's deep cuts. Maybe it's just only deep cuts. But I was able to get the bleed to be pretty high. So if I take off shock, notice how the bleed basically is almost doubled in its damage. So this is like your initial bleed. I believe a rotation for this would be like you do what I did here, build up the pin, Plasma Blast, blah, 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 blah. You build up pin again, and on the second rotation, your shock should still be active. You Plasma Blast again, and then you get a higher damage bleed, which should look closer to this. Once I get to a boss that lives long enough, I will try that out. I also did try high velocity rounds, where again, I'm going to dodge roll. I'm going to place the Balista down, and this guy is going to be using armor piercing rounds. It's not going to be building up armor, but again, it's going to be helping up build pin. So armor is broken here. It does apply the Riven armor debuff, and it's doing whatever damage. I'm about to shoot. Also, quick note. I don't know if you guys saw that, but see how I fired the shot and it ricocheted off? This is the tech that I was considering on like a lightning character, which I think at this point I'm going to do. That's going to try to incorporate ricochet into the build, because this is almost like double damage, right? So I hit the boss here. I believe I hit the boss again. It's hard to tell what is the actual hit and which is not. Maybe I missed on this one. Who the fuck knows? So I'll just play it. Yeah, I mean, it's like a decent bleed. This is a tier 15. Again, it's not super juiced, but you know, for a couple second bleed duration, which I think is about 4 seconds, I would say this is like honestly respectable compared to what I was trying to do with the Titan. What else? What else? What else? I was playing around with Caltrops instead of Mirage Archer. So it's a spirit gem that when you dodge, you throw little Caltrops on the ground, right? Reason for this is I had a lot of spirit remaining. I couldn't use more than one banner. I wanted something to maybe do some damage, if anything, but it would also be liberating to use my dodge roll and not hold it for damage. So in this encounter, I'm legit not dodge rolling, but the idea I think would be like, as a boss, if it has like an intro animation to it, you dodge roll a couple times to spawn your Caltrops and then place all your bullshit. It's not a lot of damage. It's just like something else to do. But there's a reason why I took it off. I don't think it's really that great. So, again, same idea. Try to use Plasma Blasts to bleed, and it was kind of okay. Next video. This is using some nodes on the tree to give ailment duration. Which I think I have bleed being at under 4 seconds right now. This is using, I believe, high velocity rounds for the archer. But again, same thing. I'm just running around, building up this pin shit. I'm about to shoot. Bang. That bleed was kind of shit. But this guy also has a lot of health, so it makes it look kind of disproportionate. There, I tried to see if applying the bleed did anything, but it didn't. So I have to like reapply the bleed here. Which you do want to apply your Plasma Blast bleed whenever the target is pinned, because of that one node on the tree, or if the target is pinned. The bleed is always aggravated. You don't have to worry about like re-aggravating it. So, that's it with the videos. On the tree, I took points out of the start area. I went over here for stats because using an archer and using charge regulation for the int kind of sucks. So I ended up going down here for all attributes. I actually do have this, which this is about 48% increased damage right now because it's looking at my int. So it's not terrible. It's something. And maybe I add more int to get more damage, but that sounds cringe because it's only 2%. So in that last video, I had these nodes, which I might put them back on. I'm not entirely sure. Because this part up here, the increased damage with hits against targets afflicted by ailments, it does work with Plasma Blast because there will be some sort of bleed on the enemy as I'm shooting this. So I can take use of this, or make use of this rather. I took points out of AoE and here, and I actually pathed up this direction. So quick tidbit, if you're using your weapon set stuff, you can't actually allocate jewel sockets in a weapon set skill tree. You actually have to physically path there first, and then you can split off. Which, second tidbit, so if you're doing a setup where you have a dual tree, there's this thing up here, so I'll just clear it. So naturally, you have two weapon sets, right? And you'd have to swap between the two, you would have to need a new weapon, blah, blah, blah. However, if you want to just use a single weapon, but use two different skill trees, you just have to right-click up here, and it's going to use this weapon for both trees. Pretty neat. So over here for my Plasma Blast, I got this generic attack damage here, generic projectile damage here, the shock magnitude and shock duration. For the jewels, I did get attack speed, prod speed, and crossbow damage. There's a couple jewels on here that I can swap out for more damage. I picked up this from nothing jewel for iron reflexes, so it's down over here for like 20 exalts, so super cheap. But it allows me to save points by not pathing in here or here, and I could just pick up Rusted Pins, Bleeding Out, and Gem Enthusiast. With this, I at least get the max life and the movement speed. I do think, though, I will need some sort of pin build-up somewhere. Either immobilization build-up or pin build-up, because it is pretty noticeable. And then with my points, I pathed up to here. I got this jewel socket. I pathed over to here because this is 12, 24, 54 magnitude of ailments with increased duration. This works for both bleed and shock. So really good. And since it's a bleed focused build, I feel like pathing over here is fine instead of, getting like generic damage nodes. I then path all the way up to here because I did need some int and other stats. And I got this Megalomaniac with Mass Hysteria and Rupturing Pins. So Mass Hysteria is this guy. I get attack speed, and my little artillery ballista also gets some attack speed. I don't think the archer gets any. It doesn't have a health bar, so I don't know if it's considered an ally. But there's this guy way up here for Rupturing Pins. This makes it so when the enemy is pinned, any bleed you inflict has increased bleed magnitude, and 40% is a lot. Again, these right here, so 3 points in the tree is 54, but I have to path all the way over here to get this. And there really isn't anything else on the tree that even comes close to like this wheel. So I think pathing to get a jewel socket just for Rupturing Pins is like more than worth it. On my amulet right now, I do have this, but eventually I'm actually going to take momentum on the plus proj amulet that I have, because this just turns into 7% movement speed. If I get better boots, it's even more movement speed. Just really good quality of life. because also just quick note, since I'm using a pure armor chest piece, it inflicts a movement speed penalty. So if I slot this in, I just get rid of the armor penalty for movement speed. For support gems, I was kind of going over a little bit earlier. For Mirage Archer, I have armor piercing rounds, brutality, heft, rapid attacks, deliberation. War Banner, you know, duration, AoE, less glory to use it. Charge regulation, there really isn't anything here. I have clarity. Herald of Blood, this is just the infinite chain setup, so you need bleed, bursting plague, and poison to kind of get that going. And then the chance to inflict ailments actually works with this, I believe. I don't think it's going to show this at all in here. Oh, it does show. So 85% chance to inflict poison. So just for AoE clear, that's all this really is. And then Combat Frenzy is whenever I pin, I get a Frenzy Charge. I don't know what's going to be in the slot or what I'm going to do, because I think this is bait. I'm getting only 22% chance to deflect hits. If I happen to get, where is it? Glancing Blows. So it makes it so deflect is lucky. Still, this isn't like a 40% chance to deflect. It legit would be, the game is going to roll the dice 22%. Did you deflect this hit? No. Okay, I'm going to roll again with still using 22% chance to deflect. Did that deflect the hit? Okay, the second roll deflected the hit. I'm going to use that one. I'm not investing in deflect anywhere on this tree, so I think it's just a waste of a node. If you're doing, again, hybrid armor and evasion, I think it's way better because you can actually take use of this deflection on the actual tree itself. I tried this Unleash Shell, and even though they... Here, I'll pin this, and then I'll pin this. They 3x'd this damage, but spoiler alert, increasing the damage threefold from 0 still makes the ability do 0 damage, and that's how it feels. You basically need a couple support gems to make this cooldown time go super low. But even if you're stacking stats to increase its damage, it feels so bad. I don't know what they need to do with this. I actually remember now. This does not inherit anything from your actual crossbow or any weapon for that matter. If this actually made it so it would refer to your crossbow or your weapon, oh my god, infinitely better. Just slot this in and you'd be good. But until that happens, avoid this like the plague. And yeah, this thing, whatever. I was thinking about this because it makes it getting to a boss easier because I have glory generating all the time. So I will always have War Banner available. And then I can use other banners if I really want to. Although I think the objective is to kill the guy before it kills me, not to have like an endurance match. So, although I'm not playing Deadeye, so maybe this is actually a play. But I was actually considering Cannons Ready. So even though it would make it so my Balista doesn't shoot automatically whenever I'm just playing the game, whenever I fire Siege Cascade, it would help build pin a lot faster. And then I can have 2 at the same time. Which leads into another point, is I was even considering getting rid of this, so a solid plan. And instead also getting this embankment, which this is also new. Oops, sorry. Embankments are a new aura that your totems give when you're nearby them, depending on which totem you summon. So artillery ballista give increased immobilization buildup. So this is just pin buildup. Siege ballista increased damage against immobilized enemies. But the one I was actually looking at is this guy. Dark Effigy grants 40% increased damage over time. So I don't think there is anything on this tree that gives damage over time. Yeah, I don't see anything on this tree. So it's, at least in Path of Exile 2, because this is rampant in POE 1, this is the first time that this modifier has been introduced into the game. And I don't know exactly how this works. Like, does this read as increased magnitude? Or is this like an additional added multiplier for the bleed? So you know how like skill speed and attack speed work in tandem? Like, is this increased damage over time additive with magnitude? So then, if I actually pick up these, I would have Ballista for the pin, and then I would summon the Dark Effigy Totem, which then I can actually slot in font passives or support gems to take advantage of things like Rage, Mana Leech, and all that stuff. So I think I'm going to play with this at some point once I get the 4th Ascendancy, but for now, I'm just rocking with this. Video is over 30 minutes. Good God. I am going to go in here and I'm just going to try to kill this boss to kind of showcase what this is like. Make sure I have that on. So I don't have my war banner. And of course, this boss is like the worst fucking one to demonstrate this on. Oh, brother. Of course, I don't even fucking dodge. Bruh. So some of the archer about to be pinned. Plasma blast. And busted up. So, you know, eventually once I get to a point where a boss lives long enough and I can rebuild the pin, I'm going to try to see if the bleed is higher. And hopefully it is. Because if it is, then this is your single target. This is your AoE clear. And I can actually probably make some sort of guide. But, yep. This has been my update. It's a little bit longer than normal, but I feel like there was a lot to cover because I tried a bunch of different shit. So, thanks for watching, and if you stuck around this long, you're super awesome. And I'll see you next time.